Hi all, welcome to Inch, online fashion designing class. Today's topic is stand collar, which is also known as the Mandarin or the Chinese collar. So here we have two methods in fixing a stand collar. So method 1 is completing the raw edges of the stand collar and the neckline using a cross piece. Method 2 is bringing the collar from the wrong side to the right side and then completing the raw edges within the collar itself. So this is similar to stitching like a waistband of a skirt. For making a stand collar, it is important to have an opening. So here we have done a kurta opening. So this we discussed in a previous video. So you can either have a kurta open or a zip open or a slit open. But then you see to it you have an extension piece under when you have a slit open because it will be too deep. So the collar is going to start from this point. I don't want the collar on the extension piece. So the reason is I don't want the collar to overlap on the center front. So I'm going to start the collar from this point and go around and come end at this point. So I don't get the collar on the placket pieces. So this is how the collar is going to look. So I don't get the collar on the opening here. So this is how it is completed. So the raw edges of the placket piece is completed using the cross piece. So this is the reason why I have chosen method 1. So the method 2 is where you have a slit open or a zip open. So the collar starts from the edge of the open and similarly ends at the edge of the open. So after completing the opening, you have to join the shoulders of the front and back. Join the shoulders, and now let us take the midpoint of the back neck. So the midpoint is taken by folding the garment. You see to it the placket piece matches. Similarly, the neckline should match without any difference. The shoulder joint should match without any difference. And the center back, the midpoint of the center back is taken. So now let us measure for the collar. You see to it the neckline is flat. You don't have any creases on the neckline. So now take the tape around the neckline and measure for the collar. So the collar is going to start from this point. So I will hold the tape on the stitching line. So I have 1/4 inch of seam allowance at the neckline. So exclude the seam allowance and put the tape flat around the neckline and take it slowly around the neckline on the stitching line. See to it the neck is flat and you measure along the neckline. So this is 8.5 inches here. So first let us construct the stand collar on a canvas piece. So here this is a paper canvas. So this is of 2 layers. The fold is here. So I have 2 layers. On fold, draw a horizontal line, a straight line. And all these markings are done on the rough side of the canvas. You have the fusible side inside, so which is shiny and glossy. So this is the wrong side. So the length of the collar is going to be 1 inch. So from the fold, let us measure 8.5 inches. From the fold, measure 8.5 inches. Join these 2 markings. Now take midpoint of this bottom line and then from this edge go up half an inch and Draw a smooth curve from the midpoint to the half an inch marking. It's a smooth, gradual dotted lines. So similarly, take the midpoint on the upper line and now you gradually go up the same way. You see to it the width of the collar is the same throughout. So this has to be 1 inch. So you see to it this is 1 inch. So this rise is given because you have a round neck at the front. And here at the corner I don't want a sharp edge, so here I'm just going to curve it off. So I don't want a pointed edge, so this is curved. And now cut on the dotted lines. So here you don't need seam allowance because on canvas you never cut it with seam allowance. So after cutting the collar, you need to fuse this on the wrong side of the main fabric. So the collar is fused to the wrong side of the main fabric. So we have 2 layers of material here. So we have to first complete the edges of the collar by stitching from this point. From this point go around and end at the tip here. So if you want you can just mention N. So this N indicates the neck portion, so this edge has to be attached to the neckline, whereas this is the collar edge and this is the neck edge. So after stitching, cut it with 1/4 inch of seam allowance all round. Now notch into the seam allowance only on the areas where it is stitched, especially at the curved areas. So have very close notches. So notching is done only on the stitched areas. Don't notch into the areas where it is not stitched. Turn the collar inside out. Press it flat. Press it flat, iron it neatly. So before giving a top stitch, let us put the collar around the neck to check whether it is perfect. Otherwise you can make the necessary changes before giving a top stitch. So now fold the collar in half and notch at the center. So this is going to be the center back. So this notching and the notching on the back neckline should match. Now take the collar around the neckline in such a way that you don't stretch the collar. So this has to be taken with ease. This has to be taken with ease, that is leaving it a little loose. Don't stretch the collar. So the center back notching and the center notching of the collar should match. So once it is done, you can top stitch on the collar piece. So stitch it on all the sides. the collar is completed with the top stitch on all the sides. Now cut out cross pieces to complete the edge of the collar and the neckline. So cut out cross piece. So have the collar right side facing right side of the collar facing the right side of the main fabric, and now have the cross piece facing the right side over right side. So you have the collar in between the cross piece and the main garment. So let me pin this in position. So if you want, you can first secure the collar to the neckline first and then attach the cross piece to the neckline. So if you feel you're confident enough to do it directly, then you can have all the 3 layers together and stitch it directly. So first let me pin up the collar to the neckline so that it doesn't move. So while attaching the cross piece, I will finish the raw edges of the opening also. So have it right side facing right side and stitch all the 3 layers together. So now the cross piece has to be folded to the wrong side and then hemmed to the main fabric. So before hemming, you can clip into the seam allowance. So notch into the seam allowance at regular intervals and then fold the cross piece inside and then complete it with hemming all round. So if you want, you can top stitch on the cross piece here. So press the seam allowance towards the cross piece and you can give a top stitch only on the cross piece. So press the seam allowance towards the cross piece and top stitch so that this will remain flat. So this is merely optional to give a top stitch. And now after notching into the seam allowance, top stitch this if you want to and then stretch the cross piece. Stretch the cross piece and then complete the raw edges with hemming. So this is how the collar looks after finishing. So the hemming is done. So in the next video, let us do a slit open or a zip open with a stand collar. So method 2. Thank you.